Well, be prepared for spoilers. Lots and lots and lots and lots of spoilers. Welcome to the D. Louise book series. And I'm my computer. It's nice to meet you. My name is Christina Clare. This is where we read book and talk about books. No special effects going on here. So please don't forget about If Then on Friday and Star Trek recaps on Friday and Flashback Mondays where I review over 30 books. And of course my daily book reviews. And today we've got a new one from a series I've been doing, and I had started to do this series and then got distracted. But I have read the entire series, and this is the new one, and it was out the other day, so I decided to go ahead and do it. In Sunshine or in Shadow. And we've got our Molly, who came over from Ireland, and she took the identity of this lady who was dying. They wouldn't let her get on the ship because she was dying. She had a disease. So she eventually died, but Molly brought over her 2 kids, and she's now married to Daniel Sullivan, who's captain of the police department and in New York City, and her mother-in-law, and she's got Bertie, and she's got Liam, and her 2 friends, Sid and Gus, who are a LGBT couple, who are a very wealthy LGBT couple. And she's on her way, wait a second. So Molly is with child again, and her first child was Liam, and she's with child, and Daniel wants her to get out of the city because typhoid is rampant in the city. So he wants her to go stay with his mother-in-law. And Bertie, who is just finishing school, and she comes home and she's like, her life is over because her best friend's going to Europe for the summer. But then Molly informs her that they're also leaving town for the summer. And I don't know if I said this or not, but I'm going to say it one more time. I love spoilers. I do not, in some of my books, I will do the whole book, but in the books that have mysteries or whodunits, I don't reveal the whodunit. But I'll tell you everything else. I'll reveal everything because I'm a character person. I love the character progression from book to book to book. I love to get involved with the characters. I love to talk about the characters. So that's where you're going to get all your spoilers, and then some of the mystery. So they decide to leave town, and they go up to stay with her mother-in-law. And while she is there, let's get back up. She discovers that Sid and Gus decided to go up there too. They're staying in a town from a place few towns over from them. They were thinking of all the different places where they could go to escape the city, and they finally chose a nearby town where other women were meeting with suffragists and other LGBT ladies. And she says she got a letter from Sid. Dearest Molly, greetings from across the Hudson. We are really quite close to you. In fact, if you climb to the top of a convenient mountain, you might see us waving. In reality, we seem to have fallen on our feet. You know how much I was dreading the prospect of staying with my family at their bungalow colony. This disaster has been circumvented by good fortune. We bumped into a fellow Vassar alum who told us she intended to spend the summer at an artist retreat in the Catskills, a women's artist retreat called Anesthesia, and it turned out to be not far from my grandparents. Just over the hill, in fact. How provincial. Of course, we wrote immediately, and we were told there was space for us. So we packed with lightning speed, hopped on a ferry boat, and here we are. The place is delightful. We have our own rustic cottage, but meals can be taken in the central dining room if we choose. Gus was thrilled because she felt she had neglecting her painting of late, and there is a lovely studio with views across the countryside. So she got to work immediately and comes home smelling of turpentine and linseed oil with smudges of blue and purple across her nose, and is so happy. She was worried to begin with about deserting me for long periods, but one could never be bored up here. There are amazing hikes, lakes to swim in, a brand new national park nearby with a ranger who seems to know everything. The only fly in the ointment is that we are also near a bluestone mine. Do you know what that is? It's where they mine the rock that paves the streets of New York. The quarry itself is an eyesore, a great gash in the green of the mountainside, and from time to time there are horrid explosions as they blast away more rock, rather shattering to the nerves when one is awoken at 7 by such a sound. So she goes and decides that Bertie is learning how to horseback ride with a nearby neighbor of her grandmother's. Liam is enjoying her mother-in-law's attention. So she decides that she's going to go spend a couple of days with Sid and Gus. So she goes to spend some time with them. And she gets involved with a little bit of an activist situation, a very small situation. They want to block the mines guys from taking the stuff to the train station, and the mine guys have made a path through the woods of the national park, and they're not supposed to be going through the national park. They're supposed to be going around it. And so the ladies take their carriages and they block the way, and they get into a little tiff with the quarry guy, and then the ranger comes and takes their side of it, that it is a park and they need to choose a different path. And then they go to, then they find this gentleman, Mr. Levin, who claims that he owns the property where the ranger lives. Now, the ranger lives in the state park. It's in the state park, and he's living in one of the houses made for the ranger of the state park. He does not personally own the establishment. The state owns the establishment. And Mr. Levin comes along and says that he now owns it. He bought it from XYZ. And no one really ever sees the actual deed. And he says he's going to go to court to get possession of the area where the ranger lives. And then we have lunch with Sid's grandparents. And Sid was told that her grandfather was very ill, but he looks fine to her. Sid's grandfather stood up. "Welcome, everyone," he said. "This is a joyous occasion with our whole family together for the first time in a while. Our family has come a long way since Bubby and I traveled from Poland all those years ago, and then stepped off that boat and made a new life for ourselves here on the farm. And our dear son and daughter were born here and grew up to be fine people. And our dear granddaughters, who would not feel their hearts swell with pride at such beautiful girls. I know they are going to be proud mothers of the next generation someday. Am I right, girls?" Neither granddaughter answered. "And now I'm in my final days," he said. He held up his hand when there were murmurs of protest. "No, I may look the picture of health, but my doctor tells me that this old heart has only a certain number of beats left in it, and my wish is to leave my family secure and happy. I've worked hard all my life. I've made a good living, put money by. So, you may wonder about the festive table. No, it's the right day for Shabbos. And you may have wondered about this lady sitting beside our little mirror, Miss Burnham. Welcome. You have done a fine job on our behalf." And it turns out that she's a matchmaker. And have you ever heard of "Hello, Dolly? It's so good to see you back where you belong." And I can't sing for anything. But so she was reminding me a lot of Barbara, well, not Barbara, but the character she played, Barbara Streisand. So she reveals to them that they are setting matches up for Mira, the granddaughter. They want her to marry this gentleman that's like twice her age, and she wants no part of him. And they also want Sid to marry a man too. And both ladies are like, no, 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 no. Because Sid, of course, Sid and Gus are in an LGBT relationship. I mean, certain people know, but most people don't. And their families most definitely don't. So then, I wonder if I've gotten to it. Sid goes to a play and stuff like that. We'll just skip all this stuff. So they go walking. Mira goes walking with Mr. Levin. That he wanted to go walking, and she wanted to be able to tell him privately that she did not want to marry him. And he tried to force himself on her, and she ran away, and there was a gunshot after he's standing, she's running, and there's a gunshot, so she turns around and goes back and discovers that he has been shot and killed. And she picks up the gun, so her fingerprints are on the gun. This is a very new thing in New York at this juncture, fingerprints. And Molly and Sid and Gus had gone to look for Mira to see what was up, and they find her standing there with blood on her hands because she touched the guy, and she also's got the gun. So it looks kind of incriminating. And then it's never really explained or addressed, or at least if it is explained, I missed it. But at one point, the ranger shows up all of a sudden out of the blue, and you're kind of led to think that maybe he did the shooting, but his presence is really never explained much at all. So then they talk. One of the neighbors said they'd heard of him, and they said that the guy had some trouble in New York City. He wasn't the wholesome, up and up guy that the matchmaker was pretending Mr. Levin to be. So let's see what that happens. So let's just I kept my voice steady, but Sid picked up on this. You think there is something more to it, that it wasn't just by chance that he heard the shot and appeared like that. And they're talking about the ranger. But I took a deep breath. He seems a nice enough person, but he was upset by Mr. Levin yesterday, wasn't he? Levin claiming he had the deed to the cottage and was going to use it himself, throwing the ranger out of his home. I nodded, but do you kill someone because of a piece of property you are only living on because it's conveniently near your work? It wasn't as if it belonged to the ranger. He said it was on state park land. Sid sighed. Such a puzzle. Do you think the police will come out here? They wouldn't have to, would they? It's a murder. I wonder where they will come from, Kingston or Albany. The ranger said he was officially part of the New York City department. Maybe he will contact them. Then your Daniel could be involved. That would be perfect. I saw the relief on her face. I'm worried, Molly. She added, my family has high hopes for this property, hoping to convert it into a proper resort. If word gets out that a guest has been murdered here, it will spoil everything. Who would want to come out to a place where they would not feel safe? And they're like, Molly, you're a good detective. Why don't you do it? And of course, Molly can't resist getting involved. She used to have her own little detective agency that she inherited from someone else. I forget the guy's name. But that's how she first started. She solved his murder. She solved the detective's murder. And so then they write letters. They send letters home. And then Sid's friends, Miss Van Horn and Miss Haskins, show up, and they're all excited. They want to participate in helping investigate the murder. Then let us be your investigators, Miss Van Horn looked overjoyed, glancing at her fellow for confirmation. Your interrogators. I'm not sure if that's a good idea, I replied hastily. What will you tell him? That you wonder if he's a killer? Wouldn't that be dangerous? Pitch. Miss Hoskin waved that thought away. I won't mention the murder. I'll go speak to him about lifting the injunction on his robe. If he agrees not to fell more chestnuts. That was something I was planning to do anyway. He won't suspect a thing. And they want to go talk to the mine owner because they blocked the mine owner's path the other day with their carts. If you remember that, and that's when the park ranger had showed up. So they're gonna, Molly's finally agrees, and she talks to Professor Rosen, and then it occurs to her that she had done some snooping in the deceased room, and when she was in the room, she spotted a newspaper, and later on, it occurred to her that that newspaper might be important information because no one else gets a newspaper in the area, so the victim must have brought the newspaper with him. So it must have important information in it. But when she goes back to the room to retrieve the newspaper, it's gone. And she wonders who took it, if the murderer took it or if the police took it. And she does not know. And she has to do some searching for that. So then we finally get the police to show up. And I don't like these guys. They've got, I wouldn't call it racism or bigotry, but they don't like the Jewish people, and they rubbed the detective rubs me the wrong way the whole book. So let's see. How do you do, detective? I gave a submissive little bow. That I found always works well with blustering men like that. And Detective Homer Jones of the Kingston Police Department and Constable Witter. I'm sorry to disturbing you and sorry that you've been through an upsetting experience, he said. You're an outsider, I take it. A visitor here? I am, I said. Then I don't think we need to trouble you further, except that the constable we wanted to take your fingerprints. Wonderful thing, fingerprints, he gave a smug smile. The wave of the future, you'll see. Did you know that every fingerprint is different? Once we've collected the prints from everyone here, we'll know who pulled the trigger. Simple as that. But you see, the problem is that, one, he was teaching Mira how to shoot. So her fingerprints are on that from that. But her fingerprints are also on it because she picked it up when she found it on the ground and she was going to give it back to Mr. Rosen. But he was deceased. So she says, Constable, why don't you set up on the table on the porch and we'll send everyone up to you. I don't think many of them are awake yet, I said. I was surprised that you arrived so soon. Well, there's an early train up from Kingston to take the quarrymen up to the mine, and the ranger was wanting to get back to work. So here we are. It's if you'd be good enough to take and wake the late sleepers when you've had your fingerprints taken. He finished speaking when Sid's grandmother came out of the house. I'm so glad you've come, gentlemen. Welcome. I've coffee in the pot. I'm baking a fresh batch of bagels if you'd like a seat on the veranda. Oh, God. New York bagels. You know, you leave New York, and if you ask people, especially from Manhattan, Long Island, that area specifically, if you leave New York, the number one item they miss is the food. Your pizza, your Kaiser rolls, your bagels, your Chinese food, and your bakeries. You actually have a bakery. We don't have bakeries here. You actually have a bakery and a pizza parlor. And that New York pizza, no one else in the world makes pizza like the New York pizza people. So the detective, this he rubs me just the wrong way. Very kind of you, ma'am, Detective Jones. Constable Whittier from Kingston. Are you the owner here? That's right, Miss Friedman. My husband and I have owned this place since before you were born. But you're not a native New Yorker, I can tell. You speak with a foreign accent. You're right, she chuckled. I came from Poland as a young woman. Been here 50 years, but the accent won't go. Well, what can you do? Learn to live with it. We need to get on, Detective Jones, glancing back at the constable, who was now carrying a small suitcase toward the house. A cup of coffee would go down well, but we've no time for socializing. And then he ends up eating anyway. So he when he learns of the situation, he's very quick to decide that he's going to arrest Mira. And everybody explains to him that she didn't do it. She just picked up the rifle. And he's like, but she was standing there. You saw her with the blood, the whole 9 yards. And it just, they talk him out of it. But it takes a while. This poor young girl. And then Molly suggests, he doesn't even, that was another thing that bugged me, and it bugged Molly too. He didn't even want to see the crime scene. He didn't even want to see the body. He didn't even want to look for the bullet or anything. He never takes the time to see the victim, the place of where the incident actually happened. Molly questions him about the bullet, and he doesn't do any of that stuff. Just totally avoids all of it and decides that the young girl is guilty of murder, and he doesn't even have any proof of anything, just that she was found there. And the whole thing just rubs me the wrong way. He was glaring at me now. Why? We all know the man was shot and the girl was holding the rifle. I thought you might want to have an expert match the bullet to the gun, I said, just in case he was not shot with his own rifle. Match the bullet? This new technology was clearly out of scope. My dear lady, all bullets look alike. We have a rifle at the crime scene. Why should I be looking for another one? In case someone else shot him. Someone we don't know yet. Lurking in the woods in the case, Mr. Levin just happened to stroll that way and conveniently lost the young woman who was with him. He shook his head. I know you're trying to save the young lady, but you are clutching at straws. But will you contact the police in New York, find out about the Levin business dealings? I tried to sound a little more insistent. We'll do that. Then we'll be back to arrest the girl unless you come up with proof that she's innocent. And it's a whole ball of wax. So then they fingerprint everybody, and then Mr. Rosen talks with Molly about the situation, and he spills a little tea, and he tries to tell her stuff. And they go off to, Molly wants to talk to the mine owner. So they walk through the forest, they take a shortcut, and they're going to go talk to the mine owner when there's an explosion. And apparently the mines are doing some testing on the sides, and Mr. Rosen gets killed in a pile of rubble. And Molly gets hurt a little bit too, very minor, but Jacob saves her. So then Molly finds the newspaper in the trash, and then she gets a telegram from the lady that was doing the investigating, one of the New York ladies. And the New York lady, the telegram, where is it? I wrote it down. And she gets a picture of who the other gentleman was. I don't think, finally Daniel shows up. And with Daniel's help and Molly's insistence and Molly's investigation with her friends, they clear Mira, but they still to find out who really did it, you're going to have to read the book. I won't spoil that for you. So please hit the like and subscribe. It's a really good book. We don't see much of. Oh, I did want to mention something else. It turns out that I love the little Victoria Thompson does this too, and I love the little epilogues in the back. This was an author. Um, it turns out Molly had given Daniel some advice on the incidents in the city about the typhoid, the reason they left to begin with, because she's still up at the grandmother's and he went back to the city. Dear Molly, you will be pleased to know that we have solved the mystery of the typhoid outbreak, and it's really thanks to you. You commented to me that one never really notices the hired help, and I remembered the cook up at the Freedman saying something about the fish being spoiled, and luckily she found out before she unwittingly poisoned the family. Well, we decided to test the servants in all the families who had caught typhoid, and what do you know? There was one servant, a woman called Mary, who had no symptoms at all herself, but apparently was a carrier of the disease. She had worked at several households in recent times, bringing the disease with her. So it looks as if the outbreak is now contained. You can come home. So historians will note the similarity between the cook spreading the disease in the city and typhoid Mary. In reality, Daniel might have been aware of a report in June 1907 that accused Mary Mallon of spreading typhoid throughout the upper-class houses. We have taken the license of fiction writers to change the timeline slightly for our purposes. Typhoid Mary was really causing panic during the summer of 1907. She was a systematic carrier of the disease, and she moved from family to family. She infected those around her. She was finally detected. She was kept apart in almost jail-like conditions. So check it out. Please hit the like and subscribe. Don't forget Star Trek Recast Friday. And if then Fridays, we started with the Bridgertons. If you like Julia Quinn's Bridgertons, you might like Joanna Lindsay's Mallory's, Stephanie Lawrence's Sinsters. They should definitely do a Sinster series. Those books are massive, better than Quinn's. I'm sorry, but they are. And don't forget Flashback Mondays, where you talk about over 30 books. So please hit the like and subscribe. Thank you.